one of Africa's most progressive nations, economically sound and politically stable. Ghana is also a country rich in natural resources, but the vast quantities of black gold, as discovered in neighboring Angola and Nigeria, were yet to be found. For several decades, exploration teams searched for significant reserves of oil off the coast of Ghana. And what they finally found exceeded all expectations. One of the largest oil fields ever discovered in West African waters.
The results that we were getting from the initial well that was drilled were very exciting, very thick reservoirs.
I do believe we have an outstanding field here, maybe the best field I've ever worked on.
It was a really neat well when it came on and when we DST'd it. Good flow rates, good reservoir quality. Everybody around here was very excited.
3 years later, and the reservoir is poised to surrender first oil.
We realized we had a sequence of reservoirs, stacked horizons that spanned 12 kilometers. These reservoirs are capable of anywhere from 15 to 25 or 30,000 barrels per day.
This oil is probably the most ideal oil you can have. Compared to heavy oils or sour oils, it's great quality crude.
23rd of June 2007 marks the discovery of this remarkable field. It was soon to be named Jubilee to celebrate 50 years of Ghanaian independence. Realizing the enormous potential of the find, the decision was taken to fast-track the project to bring the field online as quickly as possible. The first step was to assemble an IPT, or Integrated Project Team.
It was working with 3 different companies, at the same time, all as part of that group, Anadarko, Tullow, and Cosmos, in 3 different locations without a lot of information, and it needed to be done very quickly and very accurately.
We did a very good job of integrating representatives from GNPC, the Ghana National Petroleum Company, into the IPT, working with them, establishing guidelines. The rules and regulations they are now creating are based on our working relationship with GNPC.
We went to great lengths to hire the right people. Once we got them on board, we made sure that everybody was communicating with each other.
Because we had a lot of good people working on the project across all the parties involved, they very quickly came up with the best solution, which management for all 3 of the bigger companies and the Ghanaian government were able to buy into.
Tullow now began building various teams to put their plans into action. Its in-country team in Ghana to prepare an infrastructure, the drilling team to drill the wells, and later the production team to receive the project from the IPT. At its deepest, the Jubilee Reservoir lies beneath 1,700 meters of water. To bring the hydrocarbons to the surface, the IPT will need to drill as many as 17 wells. As well as those producing oil, there'll be others to inject water and gas back into the reservoir. The purpose of this is to maintain pressure, raise reserve levels, and minimize gas flaring.
It's never an easy problem in 4,000 to 5,000 feet of water, but the industry certainly has learned how to do that well. You simply have to engineer it very carefully. You have to put together very good, proper procedures. And then, of course, you have to have equipment and people that know how to do that. And we did contract among the best contractors in the world.
In the next decade or so, that a significant number of additional wells will be drilled, not only to infill the first phase of drilling, but also as we develop other reservoirs that we haven't as yet touched.
On the seabed, the IPT will install a system of Christmas trees and manifolds to control and regulate the flow between the reservoirs and the surface. More than 40 kilometers of flow lines will run along the seabed and up to the surface, delivering well fluids to an FPSO, or floating production storage and offloading unit. Simple enough on paper, but turning this vision into reality would take a massive concerted effort.
Up until this point in time, there was no established oil industry in Ghana. There had been some wells drilled in the 1990s, but none had ever proven to be a commercial success. So for them, this was a whole new chapter.
Also, it's an area that was just developing policies and procedures around procurement, around customs.
One of Tullow's first tasks was to create the infrastructure in Ghana that was required to support the project. They built new access roads, communication systems, offices and warehouses.
Down at Takoradi, in that area, we have the Air Force Base, which we've taken a portion of. We've set up a major pipe yard and logistics yard and set up down there.
Tullow has done a great job of building a grassroots facility and infrastructure very quickly in a country that had no oil and gas development.
In their commitment to establish a sustainable oil and gas industry in Ghana, Tullow have sought out local graduates who will be trained in every aspect of the oil industry.
It's about getting the training and having them positioned such that in a reasonable amount of time, they'll start to contribute a lot more. So we have in excess of 80% of the entire staff are actually Ghanaians, which is very, very good and speaks to Tullow's commitment.
The IPT were determined that every component of the Jubilee project should be world-class. And they called on the most skilled and the most experienced contractors from right around the globe, including FMC, Technip, Modec, and ARCA.
In order to make the very fast schedule, we have actually made the decision that all the component parts of the project are proven and they've all been tried and tested elsewhere, and we've brought those component parts together such that we have confidence with the delivery of the project.
My team have had to be in the States, working in Houston with the subsea teams, in Singapore, where we've had to construct the FPSO at the various factories. And the challenge for me has been, and for my team, is how do we get a communications plan and how do we work together when we're in so many different work sites really around the world.
You couldn't do things the way things were done typically in the past. You had to figure out ways to streamline processes, to make better, quicker decisions.
This is the Jurong shipyard in Singapore, where Modec have been building the FPSO. To help meet the fast-track schedule, the IPT had chosen to convert an existing ship rather than create an FPSO from scratch. But the word convert doesn't really do justice to the scale of this operation.
Kwame Nkrumah was a trading vessel that was in the order of about 2 million barrels of capacity. Now, by the time you convert that, ultimately that left us with about 1.6 million barrels of storage capacity.
The normal period for an FPSO is about 2 years. We're trying to achieve this in 15, 16 months.
The whole of the vessel's massive 335-meter deck will be filled with processing equipment and utilities. Maneuvering each giant complex module into position requires great skill, experience, and a fair amount of time. There are 18 modules in all, with a total weight of more than 13,000 tons. And when the modules are in place, they'll turn the former tanker into a floating factory, capable of processing 120,000 barrels of oil and 160 million cubic feet of gas a day.
Knowing that they're on schedule in terms of quality, in terms of time, in terms of cost, gives me the assurance that definitely there will be first oil come December or last quarter.
Not far away in Malaysia, MMHE have built another of the project's key components, the turret. Mounted on the bow of the FPSO, this will literally play a pivotal role in the production process. The turret is the meeting point between the FPSO and the subsea system. It provides connections for oil, gas, and water, and for the umbilical cables that transmit control signals and hydraulic fluid to the manifolds and wellheads. The turret forms the pivot around which the FPSO can rotate freely, through 360 degrees if necessary. This means that it offers the least possible resistance to the winds and waves in the Gulf of Guinea. The turret is now complete and ready for lifting into position onto the FPSO. At 2,500 tons, it's the biggest lift yet and the most critical. The last key component is in place, but the FPSO is far from complete. A huge amount of work has still to be done, much of it below decks and behind the scenes. The aim is to get all the key systems as close as possible to being operational before the FPSO sails away. On the other side of the world, Jubilee's subsea components are being manufactured and tested before being transported to the field.
We're in Mobile to spool the flow line for the subsea development activities, get it onto the deep blue, and then get it started toward Ghana.
The pipeline's been fabricated into 1,400-metre long stocks on the base, which are stored in the ready racks, as you've seen, and they get welded together in the tie-in shed, and then we spool them onto the deep blue.
Because of logistical issues, because of timing issues, it just made sense for us to split the spooling of the pipe, part of it here in Mobile and then part in Angola at Technip's base there.
In Houston, Texas, Spitzer Industries are overseeing the fabrication of the subsea manifolds.
It's gone extremely well considered, and we're bringing pieces of equipment in from Norway, from Italy, get it all here and be able to integrate it into the fabrication schedule and get it all done in the timely fashion that we did. This has been fantastic.
The FPSO is now ready to be launched, but before it leaves dock, it needs a proper name. Here to do the honors is Ghana's First Lady, Mrs. Nadu Mills. Kwame Nkrumah, an appropriate name, as Ghana's first president, Dr. Nkrumah, played a key role in developing the country's energy supplies, paving the way for industrialization and economic growth. Discovered 50 years after he took office, the Jubilee field will take Nkrumah's vital work to a new level, and the vessel that bears his name will be right at the heart of Jubilee's operations.
Here am I, looking at this huge facility as the medium through which we are going to benefit, and for me that is remarkable. It's a sign of good work, it's a sign of real commitment.
Before long, the Kwame Nkrumah is on its way. It's the start of a 14,000-kilometer journey. In 6 weeks, it'll be home in Ghana. Out of the field, the Eric Rao drilling rig has been at work continuously for over 18 months.
The route is a harsh environment DP vessel, and being DP helps quite a bit. It improved our efficiencies tremendously. We could move from well to well without having to run and pull the riser completely.
The Eric Rao is a state-of-the-art, 5th-generation semi-submersible, and it's already drilled 16 of the wells planned for the Jubilee field.
When you look at the well density in comparison to the size of the field, you realize that it's between 1 and 1.5 kilometers between wells, which is pretty significant.
We've got 16 wells drilled today. We still have one left to do. We're in the completion phase now. There will be subsequent phases as well. They're working on that now as to how many wells exactly, but I mean, it's a huge, huge field.
What we're now doing is moving into another phase which we call completions, and it's effectively putting in the plumbing that actually allows the oil to flow to the seabed.
installation coordinated by the IPT is already well underway. Teams have been out here for some months, putting in place the flow lines, umbilical cables, the trees and manifolds. These manifolds have to be lowered down to the seabed, nudged accurately into position and locked firmly into place. Subsea installation is a massive operation in its own right, demanding a supporting fleet of up to 14 vessels. High summer and the Kwame Nkrumah has arrived on site. The installation teams must now work quickly to hook up the network of chain and cable that has already been anchored to the seabed. One by one, the chains are pulled up into the turret. Back on shore, the IPT meet once again to check the progress is still on track.
Today we held our final planning meeting before first oil. This was a last chance, or really the opportunity to just make sure that we haven't missed anything in terms of leading up to first oil.
It's taken only 2 years to bring the project this far, and with an outstanding safety record.
We had a very aggressive program we had to deliver to, but at no time did we ever compromise on safety of people.
The guys working in fabrication yards and doing the installations of all the various bits of equipment, they are far more exposed to dangerous things than we are here. And it's obviously critical for all of the companies involved to have a well-developed safety culture, but there's always room for improvement, even with outstanding performances.
Everyone is determined not to let the pace slacken now. Out in the field, the next phase of installation is already underway. This is one of the risers that will lift Jubilee's hydrocarbons up to the FPSO. One after another, the bottom end of each riser has to be lifted up and lowered down to the seabed. Then, the ROVs take over, steering the riser ends to the connectors on the pipeline end manifold and locking them into position. Back on the surface, the Technip team on the Deep Pioneer now spool out great lengths of flow lines meter by meter, bringing the riser back up through the water column. Finally, the last riser is pulled up into the turret and clamped into place. A dramatic and significant milestone, with the giant ship and the reservoir finally connected and ready to deliver first oil. By the end of 2010, the first of Jubilee's oil will be flowing into the Kwame Nkrumah. It's not much more than 3 years since the field was discovered, a record time for delivery of a major deep-water development.
It seemed incredible going back 2 years ago that we will be looking at this asset producing first oil in the fourth quarter of 2010.
There were many, many people in the industry that did not think that we were going to be able to do this. This seemed like a mission impossible.
The Jubilee field came online on the 28th of November. We started off from nothing in 2007, and to deliver first oil, to me, is absolutely amazing.
Let me tell you what I look forward to. When engineers have finished everything, tested, turned all the taps and everything goes well, and for us to tell the whole world that Ghana is an oil-producing country.
It's the end of an exceptional chapter for everyone involved in this remarkable project. But it's just the start of Jubilee's story. In the coming years, the energy it sends ashore will have a profound impact on Ghana's industry and economy, and help improve the lives of its people.
We're very proud of the achievement that we've delivered, but to do it for a country like Ghana, to give them a revenue stream, to give them an energy resource is something we're extremely proud of.
It's almost a moral obligation to ensure this great gift from God is actually used to the benefit of everyone in the country.
The communication and coordination of all the activities was really key to the success here.
I met some really fine individuals that I think will be friends of mine for the rest of my life.
We've had real cultural variation in this project, and it's been really good to hear, oh, you don't have to do it that way, it can be done a different way.
With the right team, with the right attitude, with the right support, anything can be done. We've achieved the impossible.
It would be one giant step for Ghana, and for Ghana to become maybe one of the greatest oil-producing countries in the world.
In some ways, yes, we walk away, but we also know that we've left it in good hands. We've worked with a group of people that know what they're doing, and everybody's satisfied that we've together done a really, really good job.